Welcome back for another deep dive here on Research Review Radio. You know we love a good research paper.
Oh, absolutely.
And today we've got one that really got me thinking. A Value of Changing Forms. Indian Folktales. From Colonialism to Bollywood.
Okay.
By Sadhana Naithani.
Interesting.
And it's about how those classic Indian folktales that we all know and love have traveled through time. From like those ancient oral traditions to the vibrant world of Bollywood cinema.
Quite a journey.
Yeah, it is. And one of the things that really struck me right away was this idea from Naithani that change is just built into the very DNA of folklore. It's not about preserving some like pristine original version, but understanding how these stories naturally evolve with every telling.
I like that.
Like, think of it this way. Think of it like a seed being planted in different types of soil.
Okay.
The seed itself contains the basic blueprint.
Right.
But the environment, the sunlight, the nutrient, the way it's cared for, all those things influence how it grows and what it ultimately becomes.
Right.
Folktales are kind of similar, right?
That's a great analogy.
So what are some of those environmental factors, that have shaped how Indian folktales have evolved?
Well, I mean, Naithani really dives into this whole impact of British colonialism, which had just a profound influence on how these stories were documented, interpreted, and ultimately, like, perceived by the world, Yeah,
and the paper talks about how British folklorists were just fascinated by Indian folktales.
Oh, yeah.
Particularly those from the Punjab region.
Right.
They were busy collecting and translating them, but their interpretations often kind of reflected their own cultural biases.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you can see this clearly in the way that two prominent folklorists, Richard Carnac Temple and Charles Swinnerton, approached the story of Raja Rasalu, who was this legendary Punjabi hero. Now, Temple was a proponent of something called diffusionism.
Oh, okay.
So basically, he believed that folk tales originated in India.
Oh, wow.
And then they spread outward to other cultures.
Okay.
Kind of like a cultural ripple effect.
That's interesting.
But Swinnerton, he was more drawn to solar mythology.
Okay.
He saw these tales as like symbolic representations of sun worship.
Oh, wow.
With hidden meanings related to celestial events and natural cycles.
So they were looking at the same stories, but through totally different lenses.
Exactly.
And those lenses were very much colored by their own, Western perspective.
Like trying to force a square peg into a round hole.
Exactly.
And this brings us to one of the Naithani's most thought-provoking points.
Okay.
This whole idea that these colonial scholars inadvertently created a kind of folktale called India.
Folktale called India?
Yeah.
What's that?
So this folktale called India presented this image of the country that was both alluring and problematic.
Oh.
It highlighted India's beauty,
yes.
its ancient wisdom, its spiritual depth, but also often reinforced those stereotypes about India being backward, superstitious, and full of like social ills.
Yeah.
And sadly, those stereotypes still continue to influence how India is perceived, both in academic circles and in popular culture.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Bollywood.
Okay.
Because Naithani argues that Bollywood, despite all its modern trappings, actually represents like a continuation of those ancient oral storytelling traditions.
Really?
Yeah, think about it.
Okay.
Those grand musical numbers, the dramatic plot twists, the emphasis on spectacle and emotion, it's all very much in line with how folk tales were originally performed and shared.
Yeah, I see that.
And Naithani analyzes several Bollywood films to show how they've adapted and reinterpreted these classic folktales.
It's like Puravar Pashyam from 1972.
Interesting.
This film actually directly addresses that folktale called India we were talking about.
Oh, wow.
It contrasts the westernized view of India with its focus on technology and progress with the beauty and cultural richness of rural India.
I see.
And there's this amazing song sequence where the hero is showing the heroine the true essence of India.
Okay.
They're riding through this lush green countryside, and you see all these vibrant folk performances happening.
Wow.
Dancers, musicians, artisans.
Yeah.
People from all walks of life celebrating their heritage. It's this powerful visual statement that challenges those colonial stereotypes head on.
I like it.
Absolutely. And then there's Layla Majnun from 1976.
Okay.
Now, this love story is actually of Arabic origin, but it's deeply ingrained in Indian culture. Right. It's been told and retold for centuries.
Yeah.
And this film really captures the essence of that enduring love story.
Interesting. And the way they use music in the film is just brilliant.
Oh, yeah. They incorporate qawwali.
Oh, I love qawwali.
It's this incredibly soulful, Sufi musical tradition that's really unique to India.
It is.
It adds a whole other layer of like passion and devotion to the story.
It's so moving.
It is.
And it fits so perfectly with those themes of love and sacrifice.
Right.
In Layla Majnu.
Exactly.
It creates this sense of authenticity.
Yes.
That feels both deeply rooted in Indian culture and like universally resonant.
Absolutely.
It sounds like Bollywood has this amazing ability to breathe new life.
It does.
Into these ancient tales.
It does.
But I'm curious.
Yeah.
Does it ever lose something in the translation?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's something that Naithani explores in her analysis of Paheli.
Okay.
A 2004 film based on this lesser known folktale about a ghost who impersonates a woman's husband.
Okay, that sounds a bit creepy.
It is a bit airy, but also quite clever.
Oh, cool.
But Naithani argues that in its attempt to create this more stylized art house feel, Paheli ends up focusing so much on visual elements.
Like what?
Like designer costumes and these elaborate sets. That it loses some of the original story's emotional depth and cultural context.
It's like they traded substance for style.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
And this leads to a really interesting discussion about this idea of Herderian unity.
Herderian unity.
Yes.
Okay, that sounds pretty academic.
It is a bit, but I can break it down for you.
Please.
So this concept was developed by Johann Gottfried Herder, who was a pioneer of folklore studies. And Herder believed that folktales represent the heart and soul of a culture.
Oh, wow.
They embody the language, the spirit,
right.
the shared values and beliefs of a people.
Oh, I like that.
It's like imagine a tapestry woven from the threads of a culture's history.
Yeah.
Its dreams, its fears, its very essence. That tapestry is its Herderian unity.
I love that image.
So is Naithani saying that Bollywood films somehow like disrupt this unity?
Well, she argues that both colonial translations and Bollywood adaptations, while valuable in their own ways, can sometimes create a disconnect between the original folktale and its cultural context.
Okay.
So like those colonial translations we were talking about earlier, where they tried to impose their own interpretations on Indian folktales.
By prioritizing plot over the nuances of language style and cultural context, they sometimes created this sort of skeleton of the story, stripped of its like flesh and blood.
Wow.
And Bollywood, while often drawing on local traditions, sometimes prioritizes commercial appeal over cultural authenticity.
It's like those touristy markets.
Oh, yeah.
Where they sell those mass-produced souvenirs that look vaguely ethnic, but don't really represent the true craftsmanship of the culture.
That's a perfect analogy.
It's like they might be visually appealing, but they lack that deeper connection to the source.
And Naithani points out that this doesn't mean that Bollywood is inherently bad. Or that all adaptations are failures. It's more nuanced than that.
So it's not about judging.
No.
But about recognizing those different layers of interpretation and influence at play.
Precisely.
Okay.
And acknowledging that change is inevitable.
Yeah.
It's about appreciating how these stories continue to evolve. And take on new meanings as they're passed down through generations and across different mediums.
It makes you wonder, though, about who gets to tell these stories.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a crucial question.
I mean, whose perspectives are being represented?
It is, and it's something we need to be mindful of, especially in today's world where cultural exchange is happening at such a rapid pace. It's about ensuring that diverse voices are heard and that we're engaging with these stories in a way that's both respectful and critically aware.
Yeah, it's like we've been peeling back the layers of an onion. Revealing all these fascinating complexities about how cultures evolve and how stories are shaped by like the hands that retell them.
Exactly. And it makes you think about like our own roles as consumers of culture. We can't just passively absorb these stories. We need to engage with them critically, asking questions about their origins, their interpretations, and the potential biases they might carry.
It's like that saying, the palest ink is better than the best memory.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. We need to go beyond just enjoying the entertainment value.
Right.
And really dig into the deeper meaning and context of these folktales.
Absolutely. And that's especially important with something like Bollywood, which has such a global reach and influence.
Right.
It's such a powerful medium for storytelling. Yeah.
And it can play such a significant role in shaping how people perceive India and its culture.
So where does this leave us? What should we take away from this deep dive into the world of Indian folktales and in their journey to the silver screen?
One of the biggest takeaways is that these cultural stories are constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And that evolution isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
Change can bring new perspectives, new meanings, and new ways of connecting with these timeless tales.
It's about recognizing that there's no single correct interpretation,
right,
but rather a rich tapestry of perspectives that enrich our understanding.
And it's about approaching these stories with a sense of curiosity, respect, and critical awareness, asking questions like, whose voices are being represented, what are the underlying messages, and how has this story been shaped by historical and cultural forces.
The next time you settle in for like a Bollywood movie night, or
even just hear someone recounting an old folk tale.
Right.
Take a moment to appreciate the journey that story has taken.
Yeah.
Consider the layers of meaning, the cultural influences, and the creative choices that have shaped it into what you see or hear today.
I love that.
It's a journey that can open our minds to new perspectives.
Absolutely.
And deepen our appreciation for the richness and complexity of human culture.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And on that note, a huge thank you to Sadhana Naithani for such a thought-provoking paper.
It really was.
It's definitely sparked a lot of great conversations here at Research Review Radio.
It's been a pleasure diving into this topic with you.
And to all of you listening,
yes,
we hope this deep dive has inspired you to think more critically about the stories that shape our world.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep exploring.
Yes.
Keep questioning.
Keep learning.
And keep those minds open.